Okay, I think we're on. All right, let's get it. So, hello, hello, hello. Let's go to today's session. We're going to be talking about phone numbers and time. Okay, so we'll be covering the listening section, specifically focusing on the level of JLPT N5. And as usual, I'll read it once and you can re listen it and give me the context. What do you think they're talking about? What do you think, the discussion is about? And later on the conversation, I'll try and afterwards break down each section, describe it, specifically explain what they're talking about. The whole notes is essentially here for you if you want to check it out later on. But yeah, we'll go straight into it for today. We're going to pick up some additional keywords and phrases as well. Specifically for this one, what's important is, you get your usual old vocabulary, same as always. And then at the same time, some grammar points. I'm not going to go into it too deep in this lesson, but we have number of pronunciations, so 1 to 9, and then time expression from 1 to 12. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it, but maybe with family members as well. Okay. So there's a lot more to cover with today's lesson, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, let's get into it. So, without any ado, don't close it, but like don't look at the conversation yet. Just listen to what I'm saying first. If you can get a pen and paper and take notes on the side, that would be amazing, and cross-check it with what the context and the situation is talking about. So yeah, let's get into it. The conversation. Okay. 電話番号と、電話番号と日時 Okay, so phone number and time. Person A. 電話番号は何ですか？ Person B 090-1234-5678です。Person A わかりました。ありがとう。Person B 今何時ですか？ Person A 午前12時半です。Person B お母さんに電話します。Person A お父さんは高校の先生ですか？ Person B はい、日本語の高校先生です。高校の先生です。My bad. Person A 私のお母さんは会社員です。Person B そうですか。面白いですね。Okay, so if you get the context, let me know what you think. Hopefully, it's something to do with two people talking about what's your phone number and who's one person going to call who, and what's the occupation of his or her mom and dad. All right, so that's the general gist. We've got a few stuff going on. But we'll make sure to break it down. How did you feel? There's not too many kanjis for this one. I mean, there's barely any. So we're basically just dealing right now just with the hiraganas just to get us like on board with Japanese a little bit. But hopefully there's some stuff that you recognize from previous lessons as well, right? So we got one obviously like nanji desu ka. We had this previously as well. And then nan desu ka, right? Also the inquiry form from last time. And nani nani yatta ne. And then yeah, pretty much. So desu ne is also another thing. 面白いですね is also another thing, right? So we're seeing like a fairly few vocabularies and the words that we kind of remember from last lesson. So let's break it down then. So translation is as following. Okay, so I'll read it once a little bit faster in English, and then I'll break it down into each section and describe it what it means. So person A, what's your phone number? Person B, it's 090-1234-567. Person A, I understand. Thank you very much. And B says, what time is it now? And A says, it's 10:30 a.m. B says, I'll call my mother. And A says, is your father a high school teacher? B says, yes, he's a Japanese high school teacher. And A says, my mother is a company employee. And B says, I see, that's interesting. Okay, so it's just two casual conversations between the two people. It's nothing too much, really. So let's break it down, right? So again, ano is like a filler word of saying or excuse me, right? Okay, so it's like a beginning opening sentence of talking to another person. So 電話番号は何ですか? So 電話番号. 電話 means phone. Okay, this section right here. 電話. And then 番号. 番号 means number. Okay, number. So telephone number. は何ですか? What is? The is, right? は何々 is. 何ですか is what, right? So what is your telephone number? Okay, nice one. And then B responds by saying just the numbers. So 0, 0, 090, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So basically 1 to 9, essentially. Sorry, 0 to 9. And then 0, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 this. Okay, so that's the specific pronunciation side of it. If I say a little bit more closer to English, it will be 0, 9, 0, 1234 go roku nanahachi. Okay, so if you're struggling to specifically pronounce it first in Japanese, always start off like that and then gradually mold it into like more of a Japanese pronunciation by checking out the video behind. Okay, rewind it. And then person B responds by saying, Ima nanji desu ka? So what time is it now, right? What time is it now, right? So ima is now, right? We covered this last lesson as well. Nanji, nanji, nan is what, and ji is time, right? So we're saying what time is it, desu ka? Inquiry form, right? So what time is it? And then gozen juji, right? So gozen, go is obviously later, exactly. You got it. Later, right? So we covered this in last lesson as well, but it's things that we're talking about is what in front, mae, and ato, which is later. Go, or go, right? So front and back. When I say front and back, what does that mean specifically? So we got two things. AM, time-wise, we got AM and PM, right? So AM and PM. And what I'm talking about here is the kanjis of it. So I'm sure there's students who are not going to really understand what when I say like front and back. So I'm going to explain it. But so gozen is this, okay? Give me a sec. Sorry, I'm just checking the video just to make sure it is synced. One moment. Sorry about that. Give me a sec. Cool. Nice one. All right. So hopefully you can see it now. Yeah, so it's here. Okay. So AM, PM right here. What are we on about? So gozen obviously is going to mean あれなんでだちょっと待ってね。ごめんね。Sorry, it's just taking a bit more time. Okay. Yeah, gozen. So AM and PM going on. And then gogo. Yeah, there we go. Gogo ne. Gogo. So what we're focusing on is on these two kanjis right here. So PM is gozen, right? So just to put the romaji, so we're talking about gozen right now. And then this one is gogo, okay? So obviously the first kanji, go, this one go, zen and zen, go, and go, or go, right? So these two kanjis, how do we pronounce this specifically? So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this. The first kanji is obviously consistent, so we don't really need to focus on that too much. But what we need to focus on the difference between, having it at AM, obviously in the morning, early day, and later of the day, right? Go is essentially these two kanjis right here. So this kanji represents, these two kanjis, and this kanji represents mae, right? Mae in front, right? Something in forward or front. Okay, so obviously it's AM because the early day is first to front, right? When you're having your first day. And then later is essentially, quite literally, it translates later, right? Gogo, ato de is also another way to say this kanji. Gogo later, right? So then it makes sense why gozen, the first section, and the later section, gogo, right? That's just one way to remember it. But yeah, I was just basically talking that just to make sure what I meant by front and back. This kanji means front, this kanji means back, okay, ato de, afterwards, okay, or later, okay, so just to clarify. Nice one. So I'll keep that there just in case. And then B responds, A then says, お父さんは高校の先生ですか Right? So is your dad a high school teacher? So お父さんは so is your dad, right? And then, by the way, the is basically is created by this, right? Because it's an inquiry form. So this gut is like essentially asking someone about X. In this case, the person's asking is XYZ, is your dad XYZ, right? So is your dad, お父さんは高校の先生ですか? A high school tutor or teacher. Nice one. And then the reason I put the no here is because you're specifically referring to of the role in high school, right? 高校 not the high school's teacher or high school teacher, right? Right? Because if you say 高校 sensei, it's like, I know it kind of in direct translation, it makes sense because even if you directly translate it, it's specifically referring to high school teacher, and that's kind of what you say as well in English. But the no is essential. 高校 no in Japanese because you're specifically referring to okay what role within the high school, right? So you can be a cleaner, you can be the secretary or anything, you can be the administrative person, or you can just be anything really. There are a few roles, right? I know it's kind of like typical to think like teachers, but you're specifically referring to high school's what tutor or teacher, right? So you're referring to 高校の先生です。Okay, nice one. And then B says this. はい、日本の高校の先生です。So what subject does the dad teach? Any ideas? 日本語, Nihon, Japan, go, language. Yes, exactly. Japanese, right? We're talking about Japanese, learning about, sorry, he's a tutor of Japanese teacher. Sorry, not a tutor. So, はい. Yes. 日本語の高校の先生です。Again, the note is not there, my bad. So yeah, he is a Japanese tutor. Okay. And then A responds by saying, 私のお母さんは会社員です。And then the person who asked then responds by saying, my mom. Okay, so because the other person answered like what the dad does and parents' profession, she's on then talking about her parents' profession, specifically her mother. What does she do? She is a what was it? 会社員ってなんだっけ? Employee. There we go. Yeah, employee. So she is working for a company, or she's essentially a employee, right? So very easy stuff. Not too bad to go. Okay, so 私のお母さんは会社員です。Nice one. And then 私のお母さん. So my mother, right? My mother. Whose mother? My mother, right? Not specifically referring to that. And then my mother wa is, right? My mother is 会社員です, an employee. Okay. And then person B responds finally by saying this. そうですか? Oh, really? Okay. Oh, really? そうですか? 面白いですね. Again, 面白い is a bit difficult because it depends on the context, right? But what are we talking about specifically in this situation? We're not talking about comedic stuff, right? We're not talking about like a comedian talking about anything. We're not talking about something, funny, essentially. We're talking about something interesting. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Good to know, right? So that's the idea of it. Cool. All right. So translation, I've kind of done it already with you, so we're going to skip. Here's a key vocabulary, so check it out after the video. Just scan through if there's any new ones, and obviously you can bank it into Anki. Really quick stuff. Just cross-check. You make sure you can understand all the key words, okay? And then just the basic grammar points. Yeah, so it's all listed up. Asking for phone numbers. 電話番号は何ですか? Right. So what is your phone number? Numbers are reading digitally by 0901235. 12345678. So the dash is pronounced as no or pause or slight pauses, okay? So I think this is kind of unanimous, but it's important to do that because in Japan you kind of like expect people to have those kind of pauses. So we're talking about in the context of living in Japan and talking to another person in Japanese, talking about, telling another person your phone number, okay? So 090 pause 1234 pause 5678. Okay, that's kind of like the idea. And then understanding, confirmation, just to show that you have understanding, you say what? わかりました, right? Or you could say わかる as a past tense, obviously. So you already know, yeah? And more basically, just わかりました is much more polite. わかる is in the informal way of saying I understand or I know. Okay. And then time expression. So 午前 is AM and 午後 is PM. Obviously, we just covered that earlier. So having one in front, having one in back. And 10時, 10 o'clock, right? And 10時半 is 10:30. Okay. So 半, like I said in the previous lesson, is half, right? So the description of it is kind of similar to English, where you have people saying like, "What's the time right now? Excuse me, sir. What's the time right now?" And the person responds by saying, "Oh, it is currently 10:30." Okay. So there's all half past means that there's already 30 minutes gone, and it's at 10 o'clock already. So obviously 10:30. Some people might say quarter past or 10 to 2. I'm not really a big fan of that because I don't really kind of like get it immediately. I prefer numbers, but again, you kind of get used to it. But yeah, really interesting correlation right there between the English pronunciations and the Japanese way of understanding it. Anyway, next one. So quick verbs, right? So sorry, 電話します. So to call or to make the phone. に、何々に電話します. Call to someone. Okay, so maybe you could say like 会社員に電話します. I'll call to my employer, etc., etc. And then, yeah, possessive with the no. So 日本の高校の先生, right? A Japanese high school tutor. And that's what I mean, like specifically what kind? 私のお母さん, right? So whose mother? My mother, right? So we're trying to make sure we're clarifying that by putting the no in there. Nice one. And the question with the pattern 何々はですか? So お父さんは高校の先生ですか? Yeah. So it's again, we covered this already, but you're specifically asking your question to another person. Is your father a high school teacher? Right. There's some cultural notes right there. We're not going to cover it into the video because it's pretty straightforward. But please do check it out. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting. Again, a few checks just to make sure you can understand the basics before we go into any kind of advanced content. Numbers, yeah, 1 to 9. So 0 or 0, okay, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 4, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 or 7, 8, 9 or 9, okay. So the Japanese pronunciation side is a little bit more nuanced, so you have to remember both sides of how do you pronounce 0, 4, 7, 9, okay, just to clarify that and making sure you get that on point. And then the hours, right? So the timeline, how do we pronounce it? So 1G, 2G, I'm going to skip, well, there's the G, right? So the G is the signification of a time. 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, 9G, 10G, 11G, 12G, okay? The Romaji pronunciation is right there, so please try it out, okay? 1, 2, 3, sorry, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, 9G, 10G, 11G, 12G, okay? Nice one. And then the half past would be 1時半 or 2時半, right? So that's what I said with like, the English pronunciation being a little bit more close. All right, nice one. So just a few kind of title names for the family members, and then I think that'll be it for today's lesson. So family member wise, we got Japanese family members, typical Japanese family members, which is お父さん, right? I mean, you might have heard it through anime or any kind of like TV shows, but お父さん, father, お母さん, mother, 父, father, 母, mother. Okay, so these are two same ways, but just different ways to pronounce it, okay? And then お兄さん, older brother, お姉さん, older sister, okay? And then the common occupation would be sensei, right? Teacher, 会社員, company employee, 学生, student, 医者, doctor, 看護師, nurse, or engineer, right? Engineer. So that's obviously not coming from Japan. So you're taking kind of like it as a foreign language itself in katakana. Nice one. Here's some practice content for you. Please do check it out later on. And let me know if there's any kind of questions you have. Sorry, not questions, but if there's any kind of improvement you would like to have after watching the video. There's also some useful phrases for this context and some answers for the practice exercise. So please do check that out and let me know what you think. All right, nice one. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.